Good afternoon. It's Ignite. We're here to talk about some cool new SharePoint stuff. My boss and my boss's boss stole a bit of it, but we still have plenty of new things to show you today. So Jeff Teper, very excited to be here with you at Ignite. It's a real inflection point for us all, and we're excited to learn with you. And so I thought I'd kick off by thanking it's in an event like this, people come up to me and tell me how their careers were catalyzed by SharePoint at some point. For some people, it dates back to Tahoe. Others, it's about 2007. Others, it's the cloud. And so wherever you joined us on the journey, thank you so much for your feedback, your support. I hope you see that we continue to invest in both the core fundamentals of the product, making more secure and reliable and performant, as well as new innovation like AI. So thank you so much for being the best community in tech. SharePoint, of course, has evolved a lot. We are going to show you some great new user experiences for SharePoint sites towards the end of the presentation today. But of course, now SharePoint powers OneDrive, hundreds of millions of users, lists, Viva experiences, Power Platform, Viva, the Loop technology that's behind the pages that you see in Copilot, all SharePoint. So SharePoint is a hugely important bet to Microsoft, powering all sorts of experiences, first-party and third-party applications. And as much as we're going to focus today on the AI innovation that say that 20% of the team that's the most visible in the news, 80% of our organization is focused on the infrastructure again. Performance, reliability, security, accessibility, and more. We want this to be the most flexible, the most delightful content cloud platform in the tech industry. And just a couple of measures in the momentum before we focus on what's new. 3 core scenarios for SharePoint: collaboration, automation, and communication. Collaboration, over 2 billion new files, not updated, but brand new files, updated to SharePoint every single day, is the core backbone of collaboration and knowledge for an organization. Another metric, there's over 2 billion flows, workflows executed through SharePoint every single week, and that number is growing fast, not only from our first-party, but our third-party workflow partners integrating with SharePoint. And then third, on the communication side, then this number really blows my mind. I go back every couple months and just check this number to make sure it wasn't an anomaly. 2 million new SharePoint sites every single day. Pretty unbelievable. We set out to make this democratizing content creation, collaboration, communication, and it just warms our hearts that 2 million sites are created every day. Now, I know some IT people would use the phrase site sprawl a little bit when I share a number on that. I promise you, most of those 2 million sites are super useful, and we give you better management tools than we did 20 years ago for them. But let's now look forward. Satya framed Copilot as the UI for AI, and we showed a set of the Copilot experiences for personal productivity. But really, the leapfrog in business transformation is coming from agents. These are tailored knowledge or workflows for business processes that you can get to through a variety of experiences, of course, including Copilot. And just as we strove in our vision to make SharePoint the simplest and most secure way to build an intranet, we want to make SharePoint the most simple and secure way to build agents for this next age of transformation. And so, again, 3 scenarios. There's a lot of use cases that come under SharePoint, but I think about them in 3. And if there's some of you have seen the old circle diagram I did for Bill Gates back in 2000, he yelled at me a little bit, but I'm still here, it's okay. And essentially, they were these 3. Collaboration. How can we have a single source of truth for content, files, and lists that teams can collaborate on to get things done? Automation. how can you codify the content that's part of your business processes with metadata and workflow and security policies so that you could democratize business processes outside of the giant ERP or CRM systems, which are obviously very important to business processes and automation, but most of the workflows are actually outside those systems. And then third, elevating communication. It's more important than ever that you engage your employees, that you get them the knowledge they need to get their jobs done. And so SharePoint, we think about those as our three main use cases and how AI can make them more simple, more secure, and impact your bottom line. So just a few things on collaboration. Obviously, the catalyst to this growth in collaboration was going beyond Teams sites to marrying Teams with conversations in Microsoft Teams and an interactive canvas in Microsoft Loop. And so we're very excited about this new SharePoint agent capability, this expert on the content for every team coming to all these experiences to transform collaboration. And so then we switch to the next scenario, which is automation. We've had workflow in one form or another across the spectrum from simple to advanced, powered by SharePoint for a while. But I'm really excited whether it's our out-of-box approvals, the things we do with Copilot Studio, or the rich ecosystem of workflow partners that integrate with SharePoint. We and they are all going to bring AI to automate and transform these workflows, make them easier to do, more reliable, and put more of the work, not the tracking on the system, but the work on the person, but more of the work on the AI as part of this automation. So that's automation. And then last is communication collaboration. We are, of course, proud of, every 5 years or so, there's a new leap in web technology that we've tried to take advantage of in SharePoint with a new design language and user experience. But it's always been pretty tricky because you had to be a web developer to do these things, to make them look great. We switched to something about 10 years ago called the SharePoint Framework that helped a lot. But still, people want to make gorgeous, engaging sites that help you navigate tons of information and knowledge. And we are just incredibly excited about this, that Copilot is going to help you design your site, author great content, and make sure your sites are rolled out and achieve their business goals. And this is an unbelievably exciting area. My team will kill me if I say more. But the next 12 months here of what AI is going to do to harvest your knowledge and design and create content that's easy to navigate is just incredible. And so what we're showing today is a big step forward in communication, but this area is very rich as we think about SharePoint and how it powers connections and Amplify and much more. So we're pretty excited about how these three scenarios will be transformed by AI. But underpinning it all is governance. And I've been at this a while, and so I know that top of mind for many of you is this area. And as we've gone through each successive generation, from on-prem to cloud, from cloud to pervasive hybrid, to that in the era of Teams during the pandemic, to AI, these governance questions keep coming up. And so I want to make sure that everything we've learned from all of you, and we've invested in the product, from auditing to e-discovery to information barriers to multi-factor authentication to multi-geo tenants to classification, labeling, and protection to very rich granular access control to auditing of all that and much more, we're bringing to this AI era. And in fact, you probably saw in the discussions during the keynote yesterday from when Rajesh Jha was up talking about it, that a big focus on bringing AI governance to SharePoint. So first of all, everything you see here today, the agent capabilities respects everything you've done, your access control, your sharing policies, and your labels. So that is the business case for doing your AI in SharePoint as opposed to taking it out and putting it into some vector database and RAG system where you have to reinvent all of that. Why do it outside versus doing it in place? And then additionally, we're adding a bunch of new capabilities. You heard that SharePoint Advanced Management is now included in the Copilot SKU as of this week. We've added advanced data analytics for your SharePoint content, so you can see the content and it can suggest labels and other things that you might do with it. We are adding Copilot to the admin center of SharePoint to make it easier for you to manage the tasks. So security and governance for us is top of mind. And again, we hope, and you'll give us feedback, is one of the most compelling reasons to do your AI, whether it's simple out-of-the-box AI with agents or custom apps, to do it in place in SharePoint to make sure that that doesn't undermine your security and governance needs. All right, we're next going to shift into some exciting demos for the 3 areas I talked about. Our first presenter is CJ Tan from our team. But before I bring her up, we're going to run a little bit of a video to highlight some of the new SharePoint Agents work. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone. I'm CJ Tan. I'm a product manager, and I'm really excited to be here to share with you the magic of agents that are in SharePoint and OneDrive. So we're putting the power of agents into the hands of your users, and these are the people who know what they want to do with that data. All you need to do to start using agents is an idea and your data. Idea of how you want this agent to help you and your team. And this transformation brings insights and actions for better business decisions and real results. So my team has been running a private preview program with agents since the middle of the summer, and we've actually learned quite a bit about how organizations think about and want to use agents. So agents have been created to generate answers based on specific deployments and processes. We've also seen people create experts to collate materials and answer a lot of complicated questions around the clock. So something that's available to you regardless of what time zone you work in. We've also seen some onboarding, where an onboarding is more targeted because you're picking the content that you want people to use. And we've even seen cases in legal and IT where it brings together documentation and even analyzes us for some results. But let me share with you sort of 2 customer scenarios that we've learned. So Eaton is a global intelligent power management company dedicated to improving the quality and protecting the environment for everyone. And they do this through their portfolio of electrical, aerospace, and vehicle products and services. So 200 Eaton employees joined our preview. They were primarily from the engineering and IT groups. And they used agents to review their process documentation and really surface knowledge. And what they found was that they were able to better facilitate knowledge sharing across their engineering community, and they were enhancing how they reasoned over complex technical problems, and they really helped their teams respond to customer queries much more efficiently. Next, have a look at how agents are changing how Amy works.
Amy are a UK-based organisation. We operate in safety critical industry. We design, maintain, operate and build assets for the UK infrastructure. We must touch probably 75% of everybody's life in the UK every day.
Access to safety information is critical to us, especially in the front line. Making sure that our people go home safely every day is our top priority.
We are data rich as an organisation.
Accessing that information in a timely manner is difficult.
Historically, that would have been a case of somebody stopping the work that they were doing, finding the folder that sits under the seat in their truck, looking through that folder, finding the right section, looking through the section, finding the right line.
A lot of our frontline staff don't have access to a laptop, don't have access to a computer, but they do have access to a phone. So now they're able to have an agent sitting in their pocket accessing our safety information. They can access the information that they want, where they want it, how they want it, to be safer and more efficient where they're working. How amazing is it to be able to give our frontline workers the information they're looking for at the click of a button?
Having all of that information digitized and available to you in a device where you can ask a question completely takes that challenge away.
It's completely transformative for them to be able to have a chat with that data to find the answer that they need. And not only that, they're able to do it in any language, even though the underlying documentation still remains in English.
Technology can be in all the places that our supervisors often can't. That means that they can troubleshoot some of the issues right there and then, and they can allow them to work safer or more efficiently.
And ultimately, we can get people home safe and well every single day of the week.
100% agents in SharePoint is making my job safer.
Now, let's have a look at how these agents work in SharePoint and OneDrive. So here we have the green energy site, and it captures a new solar panel initiative that Relic Cloud is putting together. And when I click on this icon here, it opens up the agents for SharePoint. So every SharePoint site is going to have an agent built in, grounded on the document library and the pages library of that site. This is a great way for your audience to explore and learn all the knowledge that you have in your site. I'm going to show you here not only that you can get to this agent that's built on the site, but you can get to all the agents that are here on the site, as well as the ones that you use normally. So this agent picker here has two sections. The top one here is approved for this site. This top section is the same for every user that comes to visit your site. This is the one where the site owner can go and choose the agents that they want to highlight for their site so people can learn more information about it. The second section, recommended for you, is really for you. So this is going to change for each person that comes here. This is really your most recently used site list or agent list. And this is including things that you've created, things that have shared to you, or even the things that you just used last. So that's a great way to get back to your agents. Now I'm going to continue to navigate around the site, and you'll see that the agent stays open so that I can continue any conversations, and I've got that history here. And I'll point to you to the message box here, where it's being really clear about where it's using its grounding information when it responds to that question. It's staying on that scope of the site. But I can also select a file, and that will also allow me to ask a question specifically on that file. And this is a great way to when you find what you're looking for as you're navigating through, get some insight on a set of documents that you want to learn more about. But as the content owner for this site, and knowing that I have a lot of new people onboarding to this new project, I actually want to create an agent that's purpose-built to help people learn everything in this product specifications folder. So I'm going to come in here and create an agent. And this is as simple as me selecting this folder here and selecting Create an Agent. And all I need to do now is open an agent. And open this agent, you can see that I immediately have an agent that's ready to use on the site now. And there's a set of instructions and default prompts that are built for me that really say, go and look at this information, answer the questions for the content that's selected. But knowing that I want people to recognize that this is a tool that they can use every day to help them learn these product specifications, I actually want to give this more emphasis. I want to make sure that it's being targeted and people understand what they're going to get when they use this. So now I'm going to go through and actually show you how I edit it. Simply by clicking Edit Agent, we start with the identity. This is how I tell and communicate to the users of this agent what this agent is going to do. I'm going to click and select a new icon so it looks distinct from everything else that you might see on the site. And then I'm going to start describing what this agent can do. This is going to be the onboarding buddy. It's really clear that that's what you're going to get, and that's how it's going to help you. Under the Sources tab, you can see here that that product specifications folder is already selected. And this is really a key thing to note here, is that this agent is going to be referencing all the documents that are in this product specifications as its grounding source of knowledge. And any changes that happen within this folder get reflected right away in that next response for the agent. At the top here, you'll see we have a note that just reminds you that this agent is going to respond always with the asker's permissions. And what that means is that the content owners can continue to control who has access to the information that this agent is responding to. So the agent doesn't change any of the permissions for those selected documents. And this means that as a creator, I'm aware that the information is protected. And if I'm also the content owner, I have the same flows that I do normally in sharing that information that this agent is sharing. Now I'm going to move to the Behavior tab. And the Behavior tab is really where I'm going to give the agent instructions on what it should do. Initially, I will just make sure that it's really clear when you come here what the introduction is, and then I can set a set of starter prompts. And for my use case here, I'm going to start with a general question initially, but I want you to really know that you can ask this agent really detailed questions. And the instruction section is where I'm actually going to describe how I want this agent to behave. The key here is that you can actually be as specific or generic as you want. In this case, I'm being very specific about what I want this agent to be. It's the technical expert. It's the one that is going to respond professionally. It's going to be the tutor and help everybody learn about these product specifications. I can even put a rule in here about how I want them to respond as well, to really make it specific. Now let's give this a test. We've got on the right-hand side here, this is really what the view is and a visual of how this will look for the users in SharePoint when they come to use this. Now, as this is answering, I will draw your attention to a line just underneath this chat box next to the Save button, where it says that agents are saved. And yes, this agent is saved. It's saved as a .agent file, and it's saved right in the place where I created that agent to start with. Now, let's have a look at what this looks like in SharePoint. So it shows up in two places here. First, in that sidecar that we opened from the Copilot button up there, and it's ready to use. It's got those changes that are reflected there. But what you'll also notice is that there's a .agent file right in that document library. And so this .agent file has all the conveniences and the properties that you expect from agent. To start with, I can create this file because I have permissions to create it in this area. So as a content owner or a site owner, as you set up your site, you've already given permissions to people who own the content. Now those same people will be able to create agents using those same file permissions. And everything flows through, modeled as a file. So you can see here the file hover card still opens. We're using initially the file statistics to keep track of how many views and viewers come and engage with this agent. And we've tried to keep as many of the actions that we have in files that actually apply to this agent, including download. And I wanted to show you this download so I could actually show you what's inside this file. This agent file is actually just a JSON. This is the file I just downloaded. So let's have a look at that here. So the first thing you'll see is the GPT definition is effectively the declarative agent manifest. We have properties here for the starter prompts that came up, and then we've got the icon, which is just a data-URI for that image. So now let's go back to SharePoint and look a little bit closer at the file itself. So when you click on the file, and this happens when you click on the file in SharePoint, in OneDrive, and even if you sync this file down to your desktop using OneDrive, you can click on it and it'll open up this viewer. So this is the default view that you'll get when you first interact with it. What's nice about this is that it gives you a ton of real estate here to really focus on the interactions with that agent. And at the top, you'll have the same file options that you're familiar with, downloading and favoriting and deleting and information. And because it's a file, there's version history. Of course, there's version history. So what you can see here is we've got two versions. The first one was there because I hit Open Agent, and it created that agent for me right away. And the second were those edits that came through. We did leave the face file here to let you know if other people are using that agent as well. I mean, the session here is private to me, but I could be seeing who else is engaging with it. And then we have the share options. The share options for copying a link, the sharing, and of course, to manage that access as well. But as the site owner and the content owner, I actually know that the majority of my users are going to come in through the Copilot coin and into the agent picker here. So what I want to do is take this recommended for you section where right now this product specification agent lives and move it up to this approved for this site. I want people to really find this. The easiest way to do this is that since I'm a site owner, I'm going to have an added option here to set as approved. When you set that as approved, it's as simple as clicking that button. I get a confirmation. And now I'm just going to show you a refresh on that page. You can see that it's now moved up to the approved for this site section. But what's more is that I actually want to help people get used to and understand product specifications even faster. So I actually want this agent to be the first agent that you see when you come in here. And we use an option called setting it as the site default. And really all this does is move this agent to the top of the list, so it's the first thing that you see when you open up that Copilot sidecar. Now let's talk a little bit about collaboration. I've got a second scenario here that's really around sales and a workflow that you might be familiar with where you get an intake form and now you've got to build a proposal. So I have an agent here called the project drafter. And with this about function, you can see that this agent was built to draft project plans, and it's drafting these project plans based on completed installation project plans. So the instructions of this agent is to help me draft new project plans based on the experiences of previous ones. Now, again, from the ... we can see that we've got a copy link for Teams, a share as well, and this copy link for Teams, all it does is give you a link. It's something probably you're really familiar to seeing as it's just the file link copy. And then we've got a reminder that you can actually paste this into Teams and start using it as a member of your chat or your meeting chat. So I've got a chat set up here for the group of people that I'm working with on this proposal. I'm going to drop that agent right in there. And right now, it's just told me that I've got an agent. If I click on it, it'll take me to that viewer. But what I want to do is add this to chat. And what I'm doing when I add this to chat is making it effectively a member of this chat, which means I'm going to be able to chat with it just as you would expect chatting to another person. So I can reference it by name here and ask it a question. Now, right now, everybody in this chat has the same permissions. We're on the same team. We've been part of the Green Energy Initiative. And so what will happen with this chat right now is it's thinking, it's making sure that the response and generating things to come, and then it'll come back with a response for us right in line. But now I'm going to invite a new team member, somebody named Adele. And now Adele, I'm actually not sure how far along she is in her onboarding process, but I know that this is going to be the fastest way for her to learn. So I'm going to add her to the chat. And what you'll see this time when I ask a question is a little bit of a different experience from me, the asker. So it could be that Adele doesn't have enough permissions. She hasn't quite joined the team. She hasn't gone through all the processes and requested information. So what the agent is doing right now is going through, generating that response again. But what it does with the resources from that response is actually check, does everybody have the permissions they need? And what you see here is it lets me know, since I'm the person who asked the question, that I need to review this response because not everybody has the same permissions. And so now when I come in here, I see the response that the agent would have pasted in if we all had the right permissions. And what's important here is it also tells me, hey, this is the file that doesn't have the same permissions for everybody else. Please review it. Let us know if it's OK to send. I can also know that if I think this is an appropriate response to send to the chat, I can actually suppress this particular dialogue for 24 hours for any response that comes from this file, again, so that the collaboration is a little more smoother. So I recognize that this is something that we should all know. It's appropriate. It's not sensitive. So I send it. And once I do that sending, you can see that it updates the message, lets everybody know that I reviewed this response, and now it's ready to share in chat. But in a lot of ways, collaboration starts with an individual, like with myself. I don't start the collaboration until I've done a bit of prep work. So what I want to show you here is that because you've got a .agent file, when I come to OneDrive, you can also see all your latest files, all of these latest agents that you made as well. So here we are in the recent view of my OneDrive home, and you can see right there I've got that project drafter, and the agent is ready for me to use again. And this time, I'm starting a new project, so I'm going to actually prep some of the proposal before I meet with the rest of my team. And I can pull up files using this /key here and actually build this project plan. It's actually helping me get started so I can be prepared when I meet with my team again. And coming soon, we are going to introduce creating agents right in OneDrive as well, and introducing these OneDrive files. So you'll soon see a button that creates agent, pulls up that same builder that I just spent the last few minutes walking you through, so that you can include both your OneDrive files as well as those files in SharePoint in an agent to help you and your team. So I really do think that agents in SharePoint and OneDrive will change the way we work. Will change the way we work with our teams, and it'll actually result in some great business outcomes that can come from just being collaborative and working together with these agents. So we have two powerful tools to address oversharing. And this applies to the content that the agents use and the .agent files themselves. So for Microsoft 365 Copilot, existing SharePoint site management tools allow you to manage who can create and edit content, including agents on your site. And with SharePoint Advanced Management and capabilities like the restricted content discovery, you can govern how Copilot and how agents use that data as well. And underlying all of these responses are always from the person who's using the agent. Those permissions are used first, so you're never oversharing anything in between the exchanges between you and the agent. Now, Microsoft Purview continues to provide security, compliance, and governance that applies to both the content in SharePoint and these new .agent files. And what's more, for a limited time, Microsoft will give customers a promotion offer to empower everyone within an organization to explore the benefits of agents in SharePoint. So starting December 1st of this year, if you have an organization that has at least 50 Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses, anyone in that organization will be able to create, share, and interact with agents in SharePoint. Qualifying organizations will receive 10,000 queries per month through June 30th, 2025. Now, these agents in SharePoint and OneDrive are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how AI is changing how we work. So let's see what's coming up next in automation from Nate.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Nate Tennant, and I am a product manager for our SharePoint business apps and automation space. Now, when we talk about automation in SharePoint, we have to start with the integration and partnership that we have with Power Platform. You heard the stats from Jeff, and the 2 billion files added every single day alongside the 2 billion flows running every single week make SharePoint the place to run your business process solutions and critical workflows. Today, I'm going to show you some new AI-powered capabilities that are going to help you supercharge your content, as well as an end-to-end solution with the new Agreements app. Let's go ahead and jump right into the demos. So I have a very similar looking site that CJ showed around product specs. I've added a few formatting features and a few things under the covers as well. We'll get to those in a second. I have that same agent file that CJ showed. And if I go ahead to the edit view, if you were paying close attention, you saw that add advanced customization in Copilot Studio. So just like we've done with the rest of Power Platform and Power Automate, Power Apps, we're giving you a rich SharePoint experience, but also letting you go out and extend and build with the full capability and ecosystem of Power Platform. Let's jump back to our doc library, and these are quite technical files. If I wanted to give this spec summary, I would have to read through each one, distill down the information, type in the metadata. Kind of painful. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that because I'm using our new premium autofill column feature. You'll see each time a document is uploaded, I have a prompt configured to go and give me a brief 2-sentence summary. And above that, you're going to see a prompt suggestion pop up in just a second that's using the schema and context of my library to go in and help me craft the prompt if I haven't done it before. Let's say either in this column or I created a new one. I want to say, what is the product code? We'll make it a Jeopardy-style question. We can select any single file in the library to run a quick test. Now, as I click that, keep in mind, AI-generated results may vary. We are also live on stage at Ignite, so let's see what we can come back with. Should be close. Looks like we got the A300, saving me a ton of time in being able to go through and extract metadata that I can go then build views, additional workflows, lots of great capabilities. This is one of my favorite features I've been using internally. Let's close out of that, and you'll see another column here called approval status that you might be familiar with if you've used some of our first-party list templates. And rolling out right now, any of your SharePoint lists, you can go to the Automate dropdown and select Configure Approvals to bring the lightweight approval integration that you see here. Now, this is in a document library, which will be coming sometime next quarter. I'm going to show you how easy it is to stay within the context of SharePoint and kick off an approval flow. I see I have a high priority item. I'm going to go in and send it to my friend CJ, as well as Adele. I can choose if I need them both to submit or just one. I could add some details. We'll go ahead and hit submit. That's going to take just a few seconds here. We might be refreshing a session, but if you were to do this in Flow, there are templates available, but even getting the nuances of the routing of the approval, sending those notifications can be a little bit tricky. So we think this is a great way to make really basic, simple approval scenarios right in line with your document libraries. Now, there's one more piece of automation that I have running that you can't see here, but my team likes to work in teams. And so each time we get to a critical stage of a spec review, I send out this nice-looking card that has the title of the spec, that AI-generated summary that we saw earlier, a link back to the source document in SharePoint, and some custom actions that I've added to book a meeting or decline. So really great way to assemble these different pieces in SharePoint, put together your own workflow. Now, I'm going to pause there quickly. We've heard at times that customers don't want to have to put these pieces together, and you want Microsoft to bring you an end-to-end solution. For that, I'm going to switch over to our very recently GA'd Agreements app, and you'll see from the perspective of Adele and Teams, I can go to the left rail and click Agreements. One of the really cool things here is you can import any agreement from across your organization. It doesn't have to be created from the Agreements app. For the sake of time, we're going to skip the import and the template definition and look at what it takes to go and create a new agreement. I'll select a category for a service agreement. It's going to give me this service agreement for the US. I'll give it a quick name, and then I can go in and edit. From this point, the rest of the agreements flow can be done completely from the Word client, and you'll see I'm prompted to go in and fill out the fields that were selected in the template and add my first party. And now at this point, when I enter my supplier, you'll see that I automatically get things like address, value, and the key contact, Carlos. I'll go ahead and review the rest of this document. It looks pretty good. There is one thing I want to change. We're going to adjust the terms from 15 days down to 2. This is an urgent request. I'll go ahead and submit. You can see that predefined approval from the template for Mona, so we're going to send this over. All right, so I will then go back to Mona's perspective in Teams, and she's going to get the notification from the Approvals app. Remember our document library scenario we just showed? Exact same approvals view, whether it's coming from agreements or documents in SharePoint, and I can approve or reject from right here, or I can open up the source document. Let's say I want to take a little bit deeper look at the contents, and right away, I can choose where to focus my time based on AI insights that tell me, hey, typically we have a 15-day term, and we've adjusted that down to 2, helping me catch things that I might have missed and not have to review the entire contract and really determine where I want to focus first. Let's go back, and now that I've read through the rest from Mona's perspective, I can go ahead and approve, and I'm going to send this off, and we're going to go back to Adele really quickly. She's filled out the fields, the approvals are done, it's time to send over for Carlos to go ahead and e-sign. I'm going to go and send that off, and once that's ready, we're going to switch to Carlos's Outlook, and he has a new request from Adele, powered by SharePoint. And right from the mail, I can go ahead, get a secure link to that file, open up the request, and complete my e-sign flow. Now, I can click Start. I'll add in a very quick signature and date, and the rest looks good, so I'm going to submit the new service agreement. At this point, it's going to route back to Adele to go ahead and complete her portion of the agreement, and then Carlos is going to get a final copy sent to him in his inbox, and we're going to see both an imported agreement that we could have done for this Nestor Wilk service agreement, as well as the Fabricam visit that we just created. So that was a bit of a quick tour through the ways we're bringing new capabilities across documents in SharePoint, end-to-end solutions, covering Teams as well. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Adam to talk about how we can create AI-inspired sites and pages.
All right. Thank you, Nate. I got it. All right, let me do some demo swaps. Autofill metadata, like the holy grail of content management, isn't it? All right. So I am the anchor leg here today, and we are going to be focusing on one of the most important user jobs of SharePoint, which is building sites. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. As Jeff was saying, 2 million sites created every single day. So you're in very good company if you're using and building sites in SharePoint to communicate with your broad audience or to share knowledge or to capture knowledge. And the reason this is the anchor leg of the talk is that the more you're using SharePoint to capture this knowledge, the better those agents are, the more business processes you can automate. And so this is why 18 months ago, we really embarked on an overhaul, as Jeff was saying, of the user experience of creating and building sites. And there's really 3 key themes that we'll show today as we demo. The one is simplifying the authoring experience through dozens of improvements. Then we made content more compelling, the best looks of the web be able to happen within your SharePoint site. And then finally, there's no sense in creating these SharePoint sites if you're not generating engagement into them, if they're just silos of knowledge, which is why we've built powerful tools for driving eyeballs to these SharePoint sites. So without further ado, I will hope the hop swat of the demo machine worked, and I will show you what is the latest in beautiful SharePoint. So eagle-eyed viewers right here will already notice a couple things. This is the site with a custom font. It has a custom header on top of it. Did I hear a clap for a custom font? I think I did. Image cutout, and a whole host of new features. But I'm actually going to start here with one of my favorite new demos in SharePoint, which is creating a page with Copilot, something Jeff said we would be showing, so I will do that right here. I'm going to create a newsletter. I'm going to talk about it's a new product launch. I guess Caplocks is on. It's a product launch. Latest news, quote, instead of Spotlight, I want a section on the latest features. Event is fine. I think I'll do contact information. So I'm just sort of telling it the type of sections I want on my intranet content. I do like some of the final thoughts right here. And this is really critical, because this is where we're finding Copilot helping the most with intranet content. I'm going to select an existing press release. Because how often have you had an existing piece of content, but weren't quite sure how to SharePointify it? That's what Copilot can do right here. I'm enthusiastic. I want Copilot to be enthusiastic, so I'll tell it so. And then I'm going to create a page. And then for the first time in my career, this is a hands-free demo. I will prove it to you by taking my favorite coffee mug. And while I sip my coffee, SharePoint is going to create my intranet content for me right in front of you. So we'll give it just a couple seconds. It's created the title. And what it's doing here is it's taking a template designed by Microsoft designers that we know looks great, existing content that I wasn't quite sure how to make look great in the web, and that prompt that really told it the type of pages that I want. Now, this page isn't perfect. It had a stock image here. It couldn't quite find a right image. I'm going to have to go ahead and modify it. But here, it pulled out a pull quote from the press release because I said that I wanted a key quote on the page, and a Microsoft designer said, hey, this is how it would look really great. The latest features are pulled out from the press release as well. So it's just a really cool way. We could go on here, but I'm going to stop it right now. So I still have some work left to do. And just go ahead and take a look at the page right here. Of course, I can modify it. Oh, excuse me. I can even use Copilot to modify some text right here. We can see we have text and rewrite. And so let me move on. That was how we're simplifying the authoring experience. Now I'm going to show you how I'm creating compelling content, best looks of the web. I actually lied that was my favorite demo. That's only on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Tuesday and Thursday, I love this demo, which is design ideas in SharePoint, where I'm really going to spruce up the look and feel of this page. So if I put into edit mode, this is really where we have such an ability to create gorgeous, beautiful, and engaging pages. Get rid of that banner right here, fit design ideas, and I take a look at this pretty boring header. It looks at the content of the header. It notes it's about an eagle, so it allows me to automatically sort of spruce up the header right down here. If I go down through here, you can see this is a pretty typical 3-column layout, super easy to fill in content. But design ideas was just powerful new ways of look and feel. I asked my 7-year-old which one she liked the best. I think she liked this one, so I will pick it right here. But you can see there's a bunch of different options. Even if you copy-paste text in from Word or from Notepad or from whatever, you can go ahead and take a look and get rich and powerful ways of just making this content the best looks of the web here, right here. And so we've done one other thing here that I wanted to show in terms of building beautiful pages, which we call flex layouts. We got some feedback that every SharePoint site sort of looks like every other SharePoint site because you only have 1, 2, or 3 columns to work with. But now you have the full 12-column grid when you add a flex layout to your page. So I can go here, and if I try to drag this image around a little bit, you can see the full 12 columns here. There we go. That gets some applause. If I had a little bit more time, I could show you my skills of creating something beautiful. But in just under 30 seconds, I can create something that looks like this. And you're probably thinking that's great for a professional web designer. I want to have something that looks unique to me, but I don't really have the ability to drag everything just right. So if I add a new flexible layout sections, you can see right here we have beautiful design section templates here that really just show the incredible best looks of the web right here on SharePoint. So for instance, I can take this one and then input my own content or just move it around however I want. So we really think Flex Layouts is going to make SharePoint just look incredibly beautiful and allow it to express your brand and your personal preference. And so the last thing I want to talk about today is generating engagement. And so just a quick overview. This is where Amplify comes in. We've created a home for corporate communicators that speaks in the language of these corporate communicators. You create campaigns, and then you cross-publish this information to other places in Microsoft 365. So if I refresh this page real quick, you'll see that if I go into, for instance, this November town hall, I'm going to give a quick tour through here. You can see the different distribution channels. I can write a page in SharePoint and then publish it out and cross-post it to Engage, Outlook, SharePoint, and Teams. And so we don't have time to go into all the details of this today, so I will refer you. There's an on-demand session that goes into the details of not only Amplify, but also Engage and Connections for really this whole holistic way that you are generating engagement to your content. So that was a whirlwind tour, and my job really is to close it up in just a couple seconds. And I wanted to come back to the same thing Jeff started this with. We really see SharePoint as the world's most flexible content platform, powering not only the first-party applications you see circling SharePoint here, but also all of your applications. And I think you saw that today, because it's flexible. SharePoint was flexibly able to power agents, create business process, and create beautiful, engaging SharePoint sites. So there's a lot more to find out throughout the entire conference today. So on behalf of all the speakers, thank you for your time.